All right. Welcome, everybody. Tell the Truth, episode 7. Welcome to the squad. CJ, DG, yourself, or yours truly, DMAC.
Right.
Off to a great start here. Uh, Welcome, everybody, in. Coming off of a great win in Germany. Defense stepped up. We tamed the Cheetah, held them under 70 yards, man. Number one prolific offense, number one rushing offense, number one scoring offense.
Right.
Held to 0 points in the first half. In fact, scored -7 points if you count probably one of, if not the most ridiculous plays of the entire season to this point. You got to say the NFL season, man. Shout out to Chiefs Kingdom going to the bye week 7-2. Obviously on top, number one seed in the AFC as it stands right now. So CJDG, as we go into the bye week, coming off of that huge victory, how do y'all feel, man? How do y'all feel about the team, dog?
The boys went in there, handled business. We said about a week ago we wanted them to be physical and to come in there and set the tone. So one side of the ball definitely did their job. We're gonna have our conversation about the way the other side played, but you can't complain about keeping arguably the best receiver in football to less than triple digits in the receiving category, and overall him and Waddle to keep them both under control. So defense did a hell of a job, and to only give up 14 points, and like to D-Mac's point, I would only say the defense gave up one touchdown. That's a hell of a statement you could say with that offense, with that explosiveness for sure.
Yeah, man. I think that at this point of the season, they're finding ways to win games, and you can't really be upset at that. Championship teams find ways to win ugly games sometimes, and that's just the way it is. As long as they continue to keep doing that, I think they'll be fine. Um, and I think at this point of the season, um, yeah, man, they just got a mentality to go out there and just figure out a way. I know the offense is struggling right now, and everybody's a little pissed off about that. But I think that at some point, especially after this bye, I'm glad the bye came now because now they get an opportunity to kind of figure out what they want to do and get some things straightened out. So all in all, happy to be 7-2.
7-2, baby.
Absolutely. Uh, Appreciate you knowing. I had a little bit of family stuff, so I appreciate CJ and DG
Shout
being
out,
able
Pop.
to take
Yeah,
it.
Hey, what's up, Pop?
yeah.
What's up?
What up,
Yes, sir.
Pop?
Good to see you in here, man. But yeah, so 7-2, like KT said, going into the bye week. How can you complain about being the number one seed in your conference, man? At this current moment in time, I
Once
understand.
again, baby.
It doesn't look like how it's looked in the past. I completely get it, but this team is getting the job done and getting the job done at a high level versus good teams as well. And that's the important part. Obviously,
Mhm.
being able to hold the Dolphins to 0 points in the first half, getting that 21-0 lead, turn them over at the end of the half, really, when they were starting to get a little bit of momentum and turning that into positive points for you. I mean, completely set the tone. And second half obviously wasn't what you wanted to be, a little bit uneven, especially from the offensive side of the ball. Defense stood stout, though, when they needed to, and ultimately made the plays to finish off the game. So to start off, look, we're at this current moment in time. The defense is driving this football team. You just got to admit that. Yeah, like you just got to
Mhm.
admit that. I understand why some people are resistant to it. That is different from what we've seen in the past, but that's the truth. That is what's driving this team's success at this current moment in time, and that's perfectly fine. So, I wanted to start off talking about obviously Tyreek Hill, and specifically in the context of what we saw in the plan to take him out of the game and make sure that he did not wreck the game from his incredible speed perspective as well. Um, Obviously, we know it starts with the physical play that they were able to do with Trent McDuffie, with L'Jarius Sneed on the outside. Nate Taylor mentioned it was like the game plan where he couldn't leave the game without his jersey getting dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell by, and look, he looked beat up by the end of the game, to say the least. But they made sure they were putting hands on him on a consistent basis. They were being physical with him. They had the attention paid to him. And the strategies paid off to be able to throw off the timing of the offense. CJ, what did you see as far as the defense was concerned, specifically in their ability to deal with the speed of this offense, both coming out of the backfield and in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill specifically?
No, like you said, they definitely got their hands on him and definitely messed up the timing. That's the biggest thing. When you got two guys like that, you don't want to ever let them get free releases. And I think Spags did a good job of, like we said on our last show, kind of mixing up the coverages. No, don't give Tua the same look. Because we know how explosive him and Waddle can be. If you give them the same look, McDaniels will find ways to get them down the field. They can kind of beat you over the top. So this was a big week. Our D line had to go out there and prove themselves. We made that very clear last week, and they finished the game with 3+ sacks, and obviously had multiple pressures. And it wasn't just the D line getting obviously the sacks; it was guys like Jalen Watson getting in the backfield, mixing up some 5-4 man pressures up front with Spags defense play calling. So he did a good job of putting pressure on Tua because obviously we know he's a guy that's not going to run away from people, and I expected the defense to be able to get pressure on him because he's not the best athlete. So I think they did a good job of taking advantage of those opportunities. But more so, you got to give the secondary their credit to not let either one of those guys touch over 60, 70 yards is a hell of a job because those are the two guys that you blink and next thing you know they got 50 yards on the stat sheet. So because they're just so explosive, even when it comes to like short plays and deep shots, just putting the ball in their hands, you have to be able to rally and tackle. And for Trent McDuffie to have obviously be the leader in the head of the snake and have arguably one of the best defensive plays in the season this year, not just for us but the whole NFL, that play is definitely going to be iconic and live on forever in Chiefs Kingdom for sure.
All right, DG, what about you? What do you thought about the plan of attack, especially versus the incredible speed of this defense? I mean,
Yeah,
versus this offense, I should say, as far as Miami is concerned.
yeah. I think the point of emphasis, especially going into the game, was kind of confusion. Make Tua get off his spot, kind of throw off their rhythm and timing. There was a play, I think it was a drop actually by Tyreek, but you could tell Legarius just basically shoved him at the line, and it really threw off the timing of that play, and that's the reason why he ended up dropping the pass or whatever, just because that 1 second, that one little tick off the clock just kind of helps you break up that play or whatever. So I think they did a very good job of limiting the explosive plays, like CJ said, keeping things in front of you, not letting guys get behind you. I know they had the deep shot to Cedric Wilson, but you live with that kind of results. You don't want those. You don't want Waddle or Hill killing you, especially over the middle. And they put them in the jail cell. They basically forced the Dolphins to win with somebody else other than Tyreek and Waddle, and it was a great executed game plan by the defense and a great game plan put together by Spags. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, they were never going to trade Jalen Wild to get Tyreek. They wanted Tyreek for that, and that's what you do when you have a rookie contract quarterback, man. But Noni talked about obviously the lateral pass and everybody turning into defenders, somebody pushing Tyreek out.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, one of the plays of the season, and not just obviously from the standpoint of just any other offensive play, defensive play, just absolutely spectacular play. The presence of mind from Mike Edwards to pick the ball up perfectly and have that lateral to Brian Cook. Brian Cook just high stepping and turn on the jets to get down the sideline. I ain't never seen Brian Cook run
Oh,
that fast.
by folk, Brian.
He
Stop
was
playing.
rolling.
Hey,
And
they say he
then
left his shoulders.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
absolutely. The important part I want to point out here is what you saw from McDuffie shooting that gap and being able to be there for that screen pass. That's not something that happens by accident. This defense had a very specific game plan put in place. They knew what the Dolphins wanted to do on offense, what their tells were, and Spags and this defense was prepared for every single one of those looks, and they were able to take advantage of it on a consistent basis. And this was obviously just the culmination of that scouting. McDuffie being a heck of a player. I mean, just having a nose for taking away the football and it coming together in what would be something completely celebrated and something that we're going to be looking back on for honestly for seasons to come, because that's just something you're just going to have to watch as a highlight and enjoy, to say the least. Because the defense played that great of a game versus number one offense, and had a spectacular time, especially the secondary. So the other part I do want to get into is a little bit more about the secondary. Justin Reed, obviously, Justin Reed has his detractors, has his supporters within Chiefs Kingdom. He's obviously come over here, been able to be a leader on the defense, especially from a veteran perspective. He's been more comfortable. I think his versatility has improved as well throughout his time here. And look, he had a very good game, being able to be physical. And again, that versatility aspect of what Justin Reed brings to the table in the entirety of the safety room right now. Yeah, absolutely. The pick that was taken from Tyreek Hill, that first round pick, we used that pick to trade up and go get Trey McDuffie, and he took the ball away. Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Absolutely, man. And And you talk about the versatility of this back end allows you to play so many different coverages. I think that that's something that really stands out. We were able to throw multiple different looks at Tua, disguising things, being able to change the picture on him, make him hesitate, hold the ball just for that extra tick that we talked about was going to be key. And you saw that really manifest itself in the ways in which we were able to limit this passing attack. So, you know, obviously I've had my tweets about Justin Reed, and that's completely. Again, I want to reiterate, the only thing I said was that he
But
was
today,
that the only thing I said was that he was the weakest link on the defense, and when it's healthy, I do still feel that way.
hold my
But look,
beer.
it's
Hold my
not a
beer.
bad thing because it's an amazing defense. It is. It just is. It's spectacular.
The
It's an elite
disrespect.
defense. There's no two ways about it. You can't take it away at this current moment in time from this defense being elite. But I will say, from Justin Reed's perspective, his physicality was really encouraging to see. He was physical. He had that great hit on Cedric Wilson. He was coming down. He was running the pipe to take away those runs as much as he possibly could. I thought that he brought a tone to the defense, and I really enjoy seeing that. CJ and DG, how do you guys felt about Reed's performance specifically on Sunday morning, and in general about his place on the team right now?
You got it, DG.
Yeah, physicality, attitude, leadership. I think he's bringing all three of those qualities to this defense, and he's forming really well into this defense as well, and getting a lot more comfortable. The one thing I appreciate, and I know a lot of people probably don't, but the physicality to me is what I appreciate the most from him. Uh, yeah, and I seen he did a little bit of talking on Instagram or whatever. I don't mind that at all, especially when you're playing this well right now
Got to back it
or
up. You got
whatever.
to back
Yeah,
it up.
he's definitely backed it up. But he said it from the beginning of training camp that this defense could be very special. That they had a chance to really do something special this year, and he's going out there and proving it. So I'm happy for what we got in Justin Reed right now. I think I think the sky is still the limit for him, and hopefully he continues to keep growing in this defense and keep making plays. I would say just keep making more plays on the ball. That's all I ask. Just keep making as many plays as you can on the ball, and we good. We locked in.
All in all, obviously, Justin Reed, out of all the free agents we've had, he's probably had like the probably the toughest job to replace his like guy previously in his role. When you're following a guy like Tyron Matthew, that's big shoes to fill. Obviously, we know that. Justin Reed, for what he's asked to do, and has done a hell of a job this year. To D Mac and DG's point, and I never expected him to be the kind of guy that Tyron Matthew was. And I think most people who know football, especially us who watch a lot of film, we know their games are kind of very much differently in that role. So to come in there and be an enforcer, be a sure tackler, that's one thing I definitely think he's improved at this year. There were a lot of opportunities where he didn't get his hands on the offensive players with the ball in their hands, or definitely just being in the right position. So for him, not only not have any like penalties and not have any situations where he's not lined up, DG, getting everybody in the correct spots and then finishing those plays with physicality, that's all we've ever asked for from a guy like Justin Reed. And to go out there and impose your will on the ball before the snap and after the snap, that's what we expect out of a guy like Justin Reed, especially given the fact how much money he's being paid. But the fact you're a leader, you've been in this defense your second year now, you've been in the league for some years. You should know what to do in these big moments and big games. And you want your veterans to be veterans in those moments. And he done that the last 3 or 4 weeks. So like D-Mac said, you got to give a guy his credit when he's playing well. Don't only talk when he does something bad. So Justin Reed's definitely earned our respect and definitely should acknowledge for the way he's been playing the last 3 or 4 weeks for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you got to give credit where credit is due, and that's something that I've never shied away from, man. Sometimes I'm critical. I'm not always going to say people are great, but I am going to be willing to say that when they earn it, and certainly the most impressive thing, like you talked about, DG, bringing that physicality, setting that tone. That was something I wanted to see from him, especially against this offense that is more finesse, more speed based. Being able to be physical with these guys and really impose your will and make them feel you for the entirety of the game, because those tie-powered offenses, they want to operate like luxury sports cars. They want to go 250 miles per hour. But guess what? You start roughing them up a little bit, they don't like to go 250 miles per hour, start breaking down.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to be able to dictate to the offense what you can do from the defensive perspective. And sometimes that comes with holding penalties if you're Legarius Need. That comes with some, illegal hands to the face at the line of scrimmage. But guess what? They ain't gonna call them all, and that's exactly what Legarius Need was playing. He was playing. They ain't gonna call them all coverage, and I don't mind that at all if you're winning more often than you're not. And Omar mentioned obviously the youngest defense balling out. We are by snap weighted age, actually the youngest defense in the league. And we're one of the best, one of the most elite. But you see that the young investments on this side of the ball are paying complete dividends. And the fact that it's second year for a lot of these guys, they're coming in with the experience now, title experience, and experience within SPAC's system to be able to disguise different coverages and really understand what they're doing out there. It's taken this defense to a whole nother level. And Justin Reed, as a veteran, has certainly improved on that. And the safety room, I mean, the versatility is spectacular as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt, we will certainly get on actually figuring that out. I wish I could answer that question, by the way, so I could help you out and do so. We're as we get into this, we'll be talking, with the King Cast and Country and them boys to, have some member options because we want to give you guys something back for becoming a member. We want to give you guys a little bit of something for actually being able to be willing to support us. So we want to make sure we give some back to you guys. Well, we'll come up with some stuff for you guys on that aspect for sure, man. Appreciate you for sure. So secondary part of this, we talked about obviously the Justin Reed, as well as the versatile piece. So Chris Jones as the centerpiece of this defensive line, because this defensive line has an important role to play as far as his defensive greatness is concerned and the ways in which they've been able to be allowed to be effective as well. Chris Jones obviously has had some conversation around him having that extra, attention paid to him not necessarily producing in the ways that people would like. And this kind of goes back to sacks being more of a noisy stat necessarily than one that you can kind of fully judge the impact of a player based on, because he is seeing high double teams. He's still being able to get pressure, occasionally. Chris Jones obviously is playing for another contract, a huge contract this offseason. So every time that he doesn't end up playing at an incredibly high level or having a sack or two, people are going to be like, okay, well, Chris Jones disappeared. And that's completely understandable. But it's going to be important for him to continue to get that attention because the Dolphins double teamed him from the jump. This wasn't where he got one sack and then all of a sudden they started. No, they double teamed him from snap one, and Spags knew they were going to, and he used that to his advantage to open up a whole bunch of blitzes. So, from you guys' perspective, Chris Jones, where does he stand? How do you guys feel about Chris Jones halfway through this season? Obviously, knowing all the context of where he's at in his contract negotiations, his holdout, all of that being encapsulated. How do you feel about Chris Jones? Where would you grade him, as far as his first half of season here and wanting to get paid like a premier pass rusher?
All in all, I think he's having a good year. I think he's totaled out, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's at, 4.5 sacks right now? Or is it 5 at this point in time in the season? So I think I know he's on pace for 11 or 12 this year. I know it's double digits. I forgot the exact number.
He's got to get 10 to hit his first thing.
So I think
he has 5.5 right now. So
5.5. Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, he's on pace to hit the double digit mark and have another 11 sack season. So from his contract negotiation, he's on pace to do what he wants. From our standard, we expected him to be maybe closer to 15 sacks. But at the same time, when you miss a game in the regular season due to contract negotiations, obviously you're gonna have other players on your team that are gonna make plays as well. It may hurt his numbers in the long run, but in general, it will help everyone else make plays. That's why you see guys like Mike Dana having career years, and George and Charles and you getting pressures as well. And obviously, overall, the numbers, like to D-Mac said, the sacks don't really tell the whole story because the Dolphins weren't really able to run the football on us on Sunday. And in my opinion, I think that means Chris was doing his job because if we always said on first and second down, if you allow the Dolphins to run the football, they're almost virtually impossible to stop on third and short or third and medium. And I think we did a great job of keeping them in third and eights, second and eights and second and nines. When you keep them in those positions, this D line I know is going to get pressure on Tua and give us a good chance to get off the field on third down. So overall, I think Chris did a good job. The penalty was definitely inexcusable, and I'm sure we'll get into that later when we everybody saw it. But overall, they didn't allow them to run the football and get going down the field. I think they were less than 3 or 4 yards carry on Sunday. So from stopping the run, which was the biggest point that I made all week, you stop the run, you give yourself the right to rush on third down. We did a hell of a job that this week for sure.
Yeah, man. My advice to Clark Hunt is that pocketbook better be deep, bro, because Chris definitely is gonna garner a nice heavy contract at this point. He's definitely proven that he's worth every penny that he was kind of asking for in the beginning of the year. without him, I don't think this defense is playing as well as they are right now. I know they, of course, they came out against the Lions and kind of proved that they can hold down the fort without him for a little bit. But you see, with him being on the field, he takes his defense to another level, and especially that defensive line. And I think guys like George Karlaftis and Minihue and Mike Dana's having a career year, now just because of Chris Jones being able to come back and absorb some of those double teams and allow more one-on-ones on the outside for those guys. But he just he's that major, chess piece that you can't get rid of, man. He does so much for you, and he's so elite at what he does. It gives Spags the opportunity to do different things with this defense, to be able to run a cover zero on a 4th and 10 and pretty much send the house, But that's the kind of attention he knows that Chris is gonna garner. They're gonna have to double team him at least, and the league's a free runner to get to to throw that snap off or whatever. So, but at this point right now, like I said, if they want him back, man, Clark Hunt is gonna have to really open that checkbook and put a lot of zeros behind a certain number, to get this guy back in the building. Hopefully they do that, but if not, hopefully they figure out a way to manage and get through that and be able to replace him, and what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, and the comments are going through it, talking about his impact on the game, how much he does matter. Obviously, paying him a whole lot of money, which does have ramifications of what you can do as far as acquiring talent onto this team, and that's what Veach is going to be balancing. That's what Clark Hunt is going to also be balancing to an extent as well, because he's got to sign it off because it's his money. But in the context of what this team is doing right now, CJ, in my opinion, has been an A-, around that range. He has done a great job at being able to still have that pass rush impact. I think they can give a little bit more consistent effort in the run game, but that's really nitpicky as far as it's concerned, because he is paid to be the guy that takes that much attention away from an offensive line, still be able to produce at a high level, but everything is opened up because of how much he takes away. And I'm gonna talk about it, in a stay scheming. I know I talked about it a little bit. I've got a little hectic. I'm gonna get to it. We're on a bye week, so I can get to it next week for y'all. I'm gonna have that video out. But talking about this pass rush and everything that CJ really opens up for everybody else. You talk about those one-on-ones for Kaloftis, for Dana, for Tershawn Ward, for also a little bit for Leo Chanel at times, for these guys kind of getting off as well. I mean, allowing these guys to have those one-on-one. Felix and Duque Zoma occasionally as well. These guys would not be able to have those one-on-ones on a consistent basis if it wasn't for the attention that CJ is taking away. Obviously, Chris Jones gives them the ability to be very creative in the ways in which they use them. I'm gonna get help for this day of Turtles back, aren't I? But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, to say the least, especially the rest of the season, because I think that people are underrating what is going to happen for Felix on the back half of the schedule. I think that you're going to see Felix get a little bit more of this rotational work, and he's going to start turning up. And same way that George Karlaftis did, because Felix has kind of had limited snap count. I'm not worried about him hitting a rookie wall or anything. He's going to continue to get better, and better, and he's really going to make that impact on giving a little bit of a different pass rush layer as far as this is concerned. Oh man, we're gonna get all of them tonight. We're gonna get Nick Fury. We're gonna get Frozone. I can't wait.
You do look like email.
Where's my super suit?
Where's my super suit? I'm talking about the greater good. I am.
You put it where you left it.
I'm gonna be the greatest good you ever done. All right, I'm sorry. But yes, so CJ is making that level of impact. Chris Jones, shout out to Sack Nation, man, the CEO. This defense is fortunately having him in the middle and being able to open things up for Spags and blitz schemes, which we saw on a consistent basis, be able to give Tua problems, making him hold the ball for an extra second as well. So now we have to get to the less fun part of it, the offensive roles. Obviously, this offense had two great drives. I think we could all agree. First drive came out, rolled down the field. Just hot knife through butter. Good Pacheco runs, Mahomes slinging it, open guys, threw a touchdown to Justin Watson that wasn't a touchdown because he kind of bobbled a little bit. Came back, threw a quick screen because they knew they were getting a blitz from Miami in the red zone based on the tell that they had done versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Easy Rasheed Rice screens. Appreciate that, Matt. Um, and it was awesome to see how they just went down the field. And then they kind of went into a lull, and then they came back. Last drive of the second half, rolled out, guys getting open, Mahomes creating a little bit, offensive line doing its thing, another touchdown on the board. All of a sudden, you get to halftime because of the defensive performance, 21-0. You're feeling great. We're rolling. Everything's gonna be. Oh my god! And it everybody was feeling amazing at halftime, dog. And then second half, offense couldn't get it going. Struggling with some stunts and games for the Miami Dolphin front, which is talented, and it has to be said as well. Did a good job from a game plan perspective. Couldn't get some wide receivers open. Guys not being featured. Couldn't find Kelsey because he was being double teamed on a consistent basis. Run game stalled out. It was very difficult for this offense to generate these things. So I want to ask overall from you guys' perspective, CJ and DJ. Start with DG. Why do you think that second half happened the way it did? And how much do you think can be attributed to specifically the wide receivers?
That second half happened because they're stubborn as hell. Like I don't know, man. They operate in this way that like I feel like they think they still have to put up like 30, 35 points, especially with this team. They don't have to do that no more. Like you don't have to be that offense no more. Like you have a defense that can back you up now and win you ball games. Like, but yeah, they get into modes where they try to go back to some of the stuff that they used to be good at and that they used to have the actual personnel for that they don't have now. Like you don't have that same personnel. So why are you trying to run these deep routes, these longer concepts with guys that can't do that? I think, and to your other part of your question, I think some of it has to do with the receivers, but I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching, and the play calling. Like I think Andy gets in his ways, and he thinks, we can beat this team in this certain way that we've done in the past, and it's just not working that way no more, man. So now that's why I say I'm glad the bye week is here because I think it gives them a lot of self-reflecting, especially Andy. I think Andy's really got to take a long look in the mirror for himself and really figure this thing out, And I said it like a couple weeks ago. Just simplify it and go to your quick passing game. That seems to be what's working best for you at this moment. I think that's what worked on the two drives that you kind of scored on, especially the one before the end of the half. Just go with that, man, and let it be what it is at this point, and run the ball. Like get a ball to 10, and just let him cook, man. But until they stop being stubborn, it ain't gonna change.
Go ahead, CJ.
I mean, like DG said, I mean, Andy's going to be who he is. I know, like, we would like to see him be more aggressive, but I think once the second half started, we clearly saw this offense take their foot off the gas a little bit. Because the first drive, obviously, 75 yards, took a couple of minutes down the field. Like he said, knife through butter. Everybody touched the ball. Everybody got involved. Noah made a play. Rasheed made a catch. KT made a catch. Travis at the time. Everybody was involved. We got Pop involved early. Everybody touched the ball. We moved down the field. And usually your first 10 plays, your first 15 are all scripted. You're watching the film. You're figuring out what plays work best. And usually that's when your offense should be its most effective. And the next most effective drive would be the one coming out of halftime. And I could tell the way we were like not as aggressive with our tempo coming out of halftime lets me know Andy kind of took his foot off the gas because we didn't go as much like tempo or no huddles I would have liked in the second half. And it's like, and you play, and you kind of have to read the room a little bit, right? Like if you see your defense is playing amazing football, there's no need to go out there and have to go 100 miles an hour and try to go score. Because like the way our defense is playing, we're like, bro, they're not scoring 20 on us today. So if we have 21 points, we're like, that maybe just be enough for today. And I know fans hate to say that, like, well, why are you taking your foot off the gas? It's such a long season, and I hate saying it too. I would like to see us go out there and put up 40 and close somebody out. I would love nothing more. But We know how Andy is. He's not the type of coach that's going to blow somebody out. If he gets a one possession or even a half a possession lead, he's going to take it. He's going to get out of there with a win. And we've never had a defense like this to where we can honestly say, hey, if we score 24, is that enough? In the past, we would never say that. And this year, we can legitimately say if teams get 14 or 17 on his defense, they really got lucky. Because if we're being honest, if Chris Jones doesn't get that penalty, they do not score 14 points. I'm not even being honest. That's just a fact. There was fourth down on that play.
Off the field.
Off the field. Exactly. So, I mean, this defense is elite. They're playing on another level right now. And clearly, we haven't had like a full continuity with this unit. We've had Chris Jones miss games to his contract negotiation. Charles Omenihu was suspended for his off the field. Nick Bolton missed games to injury. So for us to not even have like a full group of a unit on defense and us to be the best unit in the league, to me, in my opinion, playing this well, I don't think there's enough you can say about Spags and the job he's done with this defense. So from Andy Reid's perspective, when you get Rashee Rice 2 catches in the first half and he's involved, you get Sky Moore 2 catches and he's involved. And that stat that I put out before the game, when Pacheco gets 15-plus carries, the Chiefs are 9-0. Now we can update that stat, D-Mac. Now we are 10-0 when Pacheco gets 15 carries. He finished with 16. I think he averaged 4.1 yards a carry this past Sunday. So when we run the football in set 10 and he gets involved in the game plan, this offense is very tough to deal with. But also at the same time, we have to make plays down the field. And obviously their game plan from Fangio's standpoint to take Travis out, they executed that. Like, hey, we're going to put 2, 3, 6 guys on him at all times and try to make sure he doesn't affect this game. And you have to let other guys have opportunities to make plays. And you can kind of tell, like, Rashee Rice is clearly the most explosive receiver on this team after KT, in my opinion. When he only gets, obviously, after those 2 catches he had, he only gets 1 target the rest of the game. There's a clear message like, all right, we don't need to use you today. And today's just not the moment we have to have you go out there and get his normal 4 for 40 like he usually gets as far as his targets and receptions from a standpoint. But to see guys like KT make plays, that's the kind of KT we expect. That's the guy we saw in the playoffs. That's the guy we saw last year making plays in the Super Bowl for us. He can do that all the time. But again, and I know fans hate hearing this shit, y'all, and I'm tired of saying it every single week. They are managing Kadarius Toney. There's no reason why we have to use him every single week, because you know why? He's always 1 play away. And I'm not going to wood right now saying this because he's easily the most explosive receiver on this team with Rashee, in my opinion. And most of us would agree with that. But we don't need KT to do that every single week. And I think Andy feels the same way. And the end goal of this team has always been the same thing, is to go back-to-back. And if it looks ugly for like 12, 13 weeks, fellas, but we get to December and KT, Rashee, and Sky and Trav are all healthy, that's all we can ask for. And if we get to that point and, hey, we're looking up, we're 9-2, we're looking up, we're 10-2, it may, like D-Mac said at the beginning of the show, it doesn't look the way we're used to or accustomed. That's why people are upset. But when you look at that box score, you look at the record, you can't argue with the results. It's not pretty. It's not sexy. But at the end of the day, we're finding ways to win ball games. And as an organization, I appreciate that, because anybody who's played football, you know, it's hard to win in this league, but even more so hard to change your identity. We've been an offensive football team for the last 5 to 6 years. So for us to flip the switch, and not only for our defense to be solid to average, this defense is arguably the best in football. And like coming into the season, that was our goal. And some of us thought we were trolling and being homers and biased to say that. We're legitimately making that statement now, how good this defense is. And like to my point, we haven't even had a whole defense. We've had missing parts every other game. So this defense is playing at another level. We're playing to them right now, Chief Kingdom. And I know it doesn't sound good to say that, because you have an MVP quarterback and you have an all-world tight end and the best offensive mind in the game in Andy Reid. But if you give those guys this defense, in my opinion, and D-Mac and DG will tell you this, I told us this all the time, you give the best quarterback in football a top 5 or a top 10 defense, in my opinion, I don't think there's anybody beating in January, respectfully. Because I know what this team can do with average defenses. So when it's money on the line and we can get a stop and give the ball to 15, there's nobody in the world I think that's going to beat us on any given Sunday, respectfully.
Yeah, look, this is all about that complementary football. I mean, and you talk about obviously having this great defense with Patrick Mahomes, and I think that extends to having this great defense with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, and these guys having the capacity to figure this out. And we talk about Kadarius Toney, he runs one slant. It's like, well, can we run more of that?
Mm-hmm.
We get Rashee Rice out in space. Can we run more of that and feature that guy sometimes, please? Can we use explosiveness downfield occasionally? That seems like it would be useful.
Or Andy goes to the play call. She like this. He's like, yeah, that worked. All right, let's try this. All right, that works. Let's try this. All right, that worked. He's like, so you're not going to go back to it? He's like, we'll come back to it later. So
come back to it later.
Come back to it. Come back to it.
That's the thing about it, is just, you know, these things are going to be circled around on. When it comes down to it, in the games that matter the most, they will get to it. And that's where the self scouting is going on right now, as far as the Chiefs are concerned. Watching tape on these games, figuring out which ways to use these guys. And the talent is here in the wide receivers room. Rasheed Rice can beat zone coverage. We know what Justin Watson can bring to the table. Kadarius Toney, when he's used like an actual wide receiver, he can be used effectively. MVS still can go down the field, even though we need to actually catch the ball when it's thrown to him down the field. Sky Moore can be used in the slot. We saw some good Sky Moore snaps early on in the targets that he was given. These guys have talent to be used in specific situations. They just have to narrow down the offense to be able to take full advantage of that while Travis Kelsey does his thing. And whether that's being taking three guys out of a big Fangio coverage scheme because they like to limit explosives and want to take, the number one out of the game, that's fine. But everybody else has to step up at this current moment in time, and that comes with play calling and play decision making as well. So I completely understand where you guys are coming from, and I think that's where the bye week will come into play as far as the self scouting is concerned. Other thing I did want to highlight here, and this is kind of just a quick thing. The studs and twists. This is the biggest thing the offensive line has to work on, especially the communication during this bye week. They have to be able to identify them, pass them off effectively, because this is the one weakness right now in this offensive line from a pass protection standpoint. They're just not doing a good job of that, and teams are going to scout that. They're going to use more of that. And the Miami Dolphins were able to get after us on a few times, and specifically on the rep in which Patrick Holmes ended up fumbling, as we'll see in here. Chubb comes through, it turns Tooney around, and that leads to the fumble where Mahomes tries to make a little bit too much happen. And that essentially put in position to go get that touchdown after that after that Chris Jones penalty. So that's what you can't have. You cannot have those negative plays, those big time sacks, especially where this offense is at. Can't give the ball away. This offensive line has to get better from a stud and twist perspective as well. So ultimately, the last question that I want to ask you guys as we go into the bye week very specifically, do you guys have confidence that they will turn this offense around as we come out of the bye week, go into the playoffs? Do you guys feel confident that they will get it done?
Yeah, yeah, they got a Hall of Fame coach. Like they got a guy who's been in these positions before, and I believe in Andy as stubborn as he is. I believe that he's also being able to will and be self-reflecting as well too, and knowing that he's got to change. And he said it after the game, especially about like that 3rd and 1. He told the offensive line, like, I owe y'all one on that one. That was my fault, my bad, or whatever. So they got a coach that knows, self-awareness, and that right now his play calling has probably not been up to par, and things of that nature. So yeah, I think they can turn it around for sure. Especially, and you got the best quarterback in football, man. Like, how can you not turn it around with 15 at the helm? So yeah, I think they can turn it.
Man, at the end of the day, like if you're asking this offense for the rest of the season to go out there and score 24 to 27 points a game, is that good enough to win? Is that good enough to beat any team in this league? I believe so, because I think we have the defense to say, hey, keep teams from scoring at most 3 touchdowns, if not 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. That's kind of what this defense has been on track to do all year. And like to my point earlier, they haven't been fully healthy. So I think people will be mindful of what we did last year in the playoff. We played the Jaguars and the Bengals both at home. We only gave up 20 points in both of those games. So if the defense was playing on a level like that last year in January, imagine what this defense is going to be doing with the second half to grow, with a more in-depth, in-sequence pass on this defense, getting everybody back on the field at the same time, fully healthy. This defense can be special, and they're already playing at a high level. So if we go into the playoffs, into the offseason, and we ask this offense to, hey, score us 27 and 26 and win us a ball game, I think that's a legitimate number for this offense. That's not a lot. That's not asking for too much. And I've seen this offense look good in spurts. We saw the first drive was 75 yards. Other touchdown drive we had was 95 yards. So when the money's on the line and we have to move the ball, we usually do it. And moving the ball hasn't been our issue at all this year, fellas. We've been top 5 in yards per game. Yards that's very like, and even as much flack as most of us are giving Pat Mahomes for not having his best year, he's still like top 5 in passing yards this year, and he's having a down year for our standards, not for everyone else's standard, because Chiefs standards are different than everyone else across the league. But overall, the offense just had a trouble just finishing drives and putting up points. But so like DG's Pop said, if we're kicking the ball and obviously we're getting points on the board, our defense is going to get us the ball back. So if we're playing field position, keeping the other teams out of the red zone, not letting them get touchdowns. That's all we can ask this team to do right now because we know when the money on the line, we can score. We just have to be able to improve in certain areas and just be marginally better. If we're averaging like what 24 points a game, if we can keep that up or get that up to like 27, I think that's good enough to get the job done for sure. Hence the stat. Shout out to the whole Kingdom group for pointing this out.
Mm-hmm. You muted. You muted, D-Man.
I'll go ahead, D-Man.
Unmute.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
There you go.
I was able to get this graphic out. Just talking about, like you said, the yards. It's similar. How we're moving the ball. Obviously, second, and this was before the Miami game. Second league through 8 weeks as far as last year compared to fourth this year. Yards per play right there at 6.2 to 5.8, third versus fourth as far as last year to this year. Points per game. That's where the drop off has come in, and because the red zone touchdown percentage has gone down, obviously that's that short yardage aspect of it. The giveaways from this offense have increased. That's that aspect of just having those negative plays that need to be cleaned up. And so once this offense really finds a way to be better in those situations, not having those turnovers, not having those drops, that situational play calling, which we know will change, and obviously featuring these guys a little bit more so that the conversion rate can be better, ultimately this offense will put up the points that we have been, come accustomed to doing. And I expect that to turn around. And, Kingdom Queens, shout out Kingdom Queens, kind of ask the question, turn around or get it done? Two different questions. Turn around, no. Get it done, yes. In my personal opinion, I think that they will, quote unquote, turn it around and start scoring more. Not necessarily to the level of they did last year, but certainly a lot closer to that level. But getting it done is turning around as far as I'm concerned. People coming out and like, oh, well, this team needs to score X amount of points. Like, at the end of the day, if they win a Super Bowl with this offense and this great defense, who cares?
Facts.
It's another ring, bro.
Hey,
Brady, it don't matter how it looks, bro. Get it done. It don't matter how it looks.
Brady didn't won a Super Bowl, what, scoring 13 points?
That's a fact.
If that's what it takes. Hey, man, it wasn't a pretty win versus the Bengals. It's 23-20. We did feel at the end. That's fine by me.
You put up 38 in 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
So which one do you like? You like a 23-20 win, or you want a 38-35? Because both of them are one possession wins. So does scoring more points make you feel better, or if you hold a team only to 20 points? I don't get like the notion of like, oh, well, we played better that game. I'm like, well, so you gave up 20 this game and you scored 38. Like, I don't get like the notion of like, why does one way make you feel better about a football team than the other way? Because at the end of the day, you won both games by one possession. So
yeah, it's really just that reflection on what we were as a team and what we are now. People getting comfortable with that. Yeah. But ultimately, like I said, this is a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame tight end, a Hall of Fame coach with a good offensive line and specific wide receiver talents. I truly do believe that the upside will be found and they will get it together, especially out coming out of the bye week. And look, big game out of the bye week versus Philadelphia, Andy Reid's old team. Obviously, they're going to be coming off a bye week themselves. They're going to be ready, and we have to come out with a better effort as well because they're going to play very well on that side of the ball. So, obviously, we like to get into the power ranks for here, a little bit of a weekly review as far as the NFL is concerned. I do, a little bit around the league. We actually saw some very good games this past week. Ravens, absolutely boat race the Seattle Seahawks in that battle of division leaders, to say the least. We did see the Eagles and Cowboys play a very close game. Eagles were able to pull it out. Bills, Bengals. Bengals got the job done at home. It feels like they kind of surpassed the Bills as well. And the Monday night game was the Monday night game, so we'll skip on past that. So yeah, I mean, look, we saw some interesting things around the NFL as well. How do you guys feel about who should be the number one team in the NFL right now, as far as the power rankings are concerned?
I think you got to give it to Baltimore right now. I mean, they played good football. They've had 2 blowouts against 2 quality football opponents. They had the Detroit Lions at home, blew them out. Seattle Seahawks at home again, blew them out as well. So, I mean, last week we asked the question, what's the best team behind us in the AFC? And I think most of us said it was going to be Baltimore. So I stand behind that statement. They're playing good football. on both sides of the ball. Lamar's playing at a high level. They're finding out ways to score points while that defense is still playing really good ball and turning over it and getting the ball back to number 8. We know how special Lamar is. So um, when you get his weapons around him, they can run the football now with other guys behind him. That's a tough team to stop. They're going to be a tough team to deal with in January. And it's kind of ironic because when we look at like the landscape of the AFC over the years, fellas, we've had to play Josh Allen at his peak. We've had to play Joe Burrow at his peak. Now it's time to obviously, like, if we actually do get the fortunate enough as football fans to be able to see Lamar Jackson come into Arrowhead on a Sunday for a playoff game, that'd be amazing to see. So for him playing at this high level is kind of what we expected. He's been hurt a lot for the last couple of years, but the way the Ravens are playing, I think they're definitely the best team in the league right now, and that's why we give it to for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree. Ravens are obviously kicking everybody's ass right now, and they're playing good football, especially on both sides of the ball. Definitely on offensive side of the ball, love their physicality. I still think they lead the league in sacks at this point.
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah. They do, yeah.
So to have that is a stat is crazy at this point. But obviously a good coach in John Harbaugh definitely knows what he's doing. He's got that team firing on all cylinders right now, and they definitely look the part of the best team in the league right now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, to your question about the zone beaters, I mean, I think Rashee Rice has the ability to be that secondary zone beater to Travis Kelce. And then after that, you just kind of need a field stretcher. And look, we've got Watson, we got MVS that can go down the field a little bit more. I think that this team can beat zone coverage on a consistent basis when Rashee Rice is being featured. I think that's the important part of it. Rashee Rice has to be featured for that to really work.
I don't know about that one, Harold. That North looked kind of good to me, buddy.
Yeah, that AFC North is a tough division.
You got 4 teams.
Sexy, but
4 teams. If the playoffs started today, they would all be in.
That's a fact. I said before the season, every team in that division can win 9 games, and it's kind of holding true right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're on pace. We always know that the Steelers are able to do the Browns are being buoyed about their great defense. And we'll see if
I don't know about that one, Harold.
See if their offense can get back on track as well. And obviously, the Bengals have caught fire a little bit here, and the Ravens have started to go out. So, question about number 2. I mean, do you guys think it should be us? Do you guys think it should be the Eagles? Do you guys think it should be the Jaguars? Where do you feel like as far as the number 2 team in that power ranking should be?
I think this is a spot you could probably throw us in here. Obviously, it's kind of ironic. It's between us and Philly, and we're playing after the bye. So Philly's playing good football. Obviously, they're not playing their best. And I think if you ask honest Eagles fans, they'll probably tell you the same thing. They're finding ways to win games. And it's kind of ironic because Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts were the 2 MVP candidates, right? The top 2 last year. Neither quarterback is playing at the level they were a year ago. And I think both of the quarterbacks will tell you that for sure to their face. So both teams are not playing at the level they want to be playing at, but you got to respect ways to find ways to win ball games because that's what good organizations do. You play ugly football, you're not playing up to the standard you're used to, but at the end of the day, the records are still the same. 7-2 is 7-2, so I can't knock a team for being that. So I would put us here just because of the fact both teams have taken a step back clearly, but our defense has taken such a drastic step forward, being arguably the best unit in the league right now. I think that's the argument for me of why we should be number 2 right now. Because when we do play Philly next week, it's going to be a hell of a football game in Kansas City in Arrowhead for Monday night. I expect our defense to fly around and make plays because we've done it all year. And to me and D-Mac's point, you said this all summer, this secondary has seen everybody in the league as far as elite talent receiver core. And we talked about the body bag list of receivers this DB group has went against for the last year. So it's only going to get longer when you go against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, arguably one of the best tandems in the league. And A.J. Brown's playing the offensive player of the year. So Eagles are a really good football team. They're not playing at the level they were last year. So for us to both be at this point right now, I have to give it to us mainly based off the fact how well our defense is playing. They're playing at another level right now. So I would humbly put us at number 2, D-Mac.
Yeah. I kind of think it's the Eagles, just going off a record being 8-1. They've won some tough games. I still think, for me, I think offensively they have more of an identity than we do at this point, and that's kind of why I would put them a little bit over us. Although I know that they haven't played as well to some people's standards or whatever. That, to me, in my opinion, the Chiefs haven't played up to my standards as well, and what I expect from them. So, but I wouldn't argue with us being at 2 as well, too. I think we're playing just as good as them. But if in my personal list, I would have the Eagles above us, but and us at 3. But either way, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I have a slight lean towards us right now. I think that we're a little bit better balanced and a little bit better as far as the defensive versatility is concerned. I think there are clear holes in Philadelphia's secondary that need to be addressed from their standpoint. And until that happens, I'm a little bit concerned about that. But
Bradbury.
that offense is still AJ Brown is absolute.
Bradbury out
AJ
there
Brown
getting
is
cooked.
It ain't looking
he is
too hot for this.
AJ Brown is a dangerous person. That is a dangerous
He's a
human
dog.
being.
He's a dog.
That dude is amazing. And you got to give him credit for what he's doing this season. He's been spectacular for them as well. I'm just gonna pencil in the Jaguars here for. I think they're balanced. They play very well in the South. I think you got to give those guys credit for what they've been able to put together over there. They would be the number 4 team. Obviously, Denver. I mean, not Denver. Jesus Christ. Uh, Detroit's been able to bounce back from that Ravens loss. Miami lost to us. Obviously, we've seen some Bills fall off as well. So I think the Jaguars have earned that 4 spot. I'm gonna say the team that I think I would put number 5, and some people might think it's a little premature, but they've also been the hottest team in the league over the last few weeks.
You gotta talk about
Cincinnati.
it.
That's
I,
all.
Cincinnati doesn't kind of be there, man.
Mm.
You see Joe Burrow's healthy, that sparked the offense moving forward. The defense is kind of coming along.
Looking
I
healthy.
got to be Cincy at number 5,
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned.
Healthy.
Yeah.
So
Keep an
for
eye.
number
I
6,
heard Jamar Chase had a back injury. I don't know how serious it is, but
Yeah, he didn't practice. He didn't practice today.
yeah, that's something to keep an eye
T.
out on.
Higgins obviously had an ankle thing as well, so we'll keep an eye out as far as that's concerned. Hopefully, nothing.
Bob, you wild today.
No, I
So
definitely.
Charles, bro. So yeah, so we'll go with those guys at 4 and 5, and I'll put them in. So for 6, I mean, like I said, we got Detroit, San Francisco, Miami.
That's a little mix right there.
Buffalo, I guess. Cowboys coming off a
Yeah.
close loss to the Eagles.
That's tough.
Seattle getting destroyed by the Ravens. Any of those guys stand out to you guys as far as who we think we should put at number 6?
I think Detroit still deserves to be probably in that slot. They've been playing really good ball. I think they're starting to kind of really figure out who they really are too, as well. And they're finally letting Jahmyr Gibbs spin. So to me, I think that they're figuring it out right now. They should probably be at 6.
Yeah, I mean, you could have an argument for like maybe San Fran, but having 3 straight losses, and they had a bye
That's
this week, so
tough.
we didn't get to see them
Yeah.
kind of play. So yeah, I think Detroit getting healthy at the right time. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs had a breakout game. They're getting David Montgomery back this week as well, who was dealing with an injury. So they've had guys in and out the lineup all year, whether it be obviously J-Mo dealing with his off the field issues, and then Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and guys on defense missing snaps as well, as far as like Brian Branch and other guys over there. When they're fully healthy and everybody's on the field, the Lions are going to be a damn good football team, as we should know because we played in week 1. So I'm cool with the Lions being here at 6 for sure. Jared Goff playing really good ball.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as that's concerned. Anybody you feel like should be over the Niners here for number 7? Because I mean, like we talked about, obviously Bills, Dolphins, Browns. To me, it feels like, yeah, sure, the Niners have had this backslide, but this is a very tough stretch for them. I feel like by the end of the season, we're going to look at the Niners were number 10 in the power rankings. They should have never been that low. In my personal opinion, I think that you can give them to 7. I think the Lions obviously have gotten better. I think the top 5 teams have proved that they deserve to be in front of them right now. But I just feel so bullish on where the Niners going to end up being. What are you guys' thoughts as far as that? Because you feel comfortable with the Niners there?
Yeah, if they played this game this week and won, they would be probably in the top 5 if they won this week. But when you're on a bye week, it's kind of hard to move you when you don't play nobody. But I expect them to. It's gonna be a good game this week. They got Jacksonville. It's gonna be in Jacksonville as well. So that's a good test for them. So
for sure,
if they win that week, they'll definitely prove themselves why they should be top 5 for sure.
Yeah, so I hear you on that. So as far as now we kind of get into the really good teams that are kind of lost the position. I mean, Miami, Seattle, Buffalo. You guys have a preference between that group of of kind of losers from this last week, and who do you think could stop their slide here?
I guess Buffalo because they beat Miami when they saw them.
Yeah,
But then
they just have not.
they're not playing really good football either. So.
Right, yeah.
And then that's the problem. I mean, they're a completely different team from when they did beat Miami because of the injuries that they've suffered on that defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's just they've lost so much as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know who else I would put in front.
But if Miami and Buffalo lined up today, who are we taking?
I'm still taking Buffalo.
I think I would too.
I trust Josh Allen more than I trust Tua at this point. So
would you take the Cowboys over them?
May lean down.
I don't know. See, okay, I got one issue.
That'd be a hell of a matchup. That'd be a hell of a game.
I got one issue with the Cowboys. The Cowboys, to me, in big games, are already psychologically beat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, but like when they get into these big games, like they freeze for some reason. Like, and
they tried their best. Philly was giving the game away, DG, on Sunday night.
Yes.
They really were. They were figuring out, hey, bro, let's turn the ball over. Let's give it back to him on the short field. Dallas just couldn't, like you said, finish the game.
Yeah, and they just get, to me, I always say it every week, like the game against the Niners and then the game against the Eagles, like they just get psychologically whooped. You know,
but Dak played amazing. Dak played well for them to win that game. That wasn't Dak's fault. Usually we're talking about the quarterback. He didn't mess the game up. He played well.
Right. And I'm not putting the blame on Dak at all. It's more of just the cohesion of the team. I don't know what it is about Dallas, but they get into these big games and they're already psychologically beat. So I mean that's just my take on it, my opinion. But to put them ahead of Buffalo, I don't think I can do that.
Those are three teams who kind of have the same notion right now.
Yeah,
good in the regular season, but when the money on the line, they have
tough man. Can you trust? Can you really trust them?
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly. It's just preference at that point for sure.
Yeah, look, I completely understand it from that perspective, and I'll slide the Cowboys, and I think they played a very close game for the Eagles, and I think they're still very balanced on both sides.
They won that game, bro.
It's just
really should have
like DG said, big games. That question mark, and I can't trust Mike McCarthy. I just can't. Yeah, he makes too many mistakes when it matters most, and it's difficult. It's just difficult to trust the Cowboys, and especially with that man at the helm.
America's team, huh?
Yeah. So obviously, I put the Cowboys at 9. Dolphins, the loss, Seattle loss. It is what it is. The Browns handled Arizona. I don't think we learned much about them. I expected that as far as that's concerned. I will say a shout out to the Steelers. They got another win versus Tennessee on Thursday Night Football, able to get the job done in a little bit of a comeback fashion. But I'm sorry, this 10 spot for me has to go to what my personal opinion was, even though we saw a lot of really good games, the best game of the day. The Texans beating the Buccaneers, man.
Texans, baby, fact.
CJ.
Shout out twin.
Breaking the rookie passing record. Having a great celebration that we will not get in depth about on here, but we all know what he was doing. Not that one. It was something else that he did.
Oh, I know what D-Mac talking about. We can't do that on air.
We're not going to do it on stream. We're going to do it something else.
Family show.
I missed it. I got to go back and look.
I know go watch it. Oh, boy.
Shout out to CJ Stroud, breaking the rookie passer record. Spectacular performance. After the Buccaneers were able to go and take the lead with about 59 seconds left, under a minute left, 2 timeouts. Stroud gets the ball in his hands, makes a spectacular dart throw to Tank Dell on the left sideline. Just gorgeous layering of the football by him, and then throws a dart in the middle of the end zone to get the ultimate touchdown to put them ahead for good. They deserve the gold star spot as far as I'm concerned for the game of the week and the win of the week, and CJ Stroud with the quarterback performance of the week as well.
Can we lock up offensive rookie of the year? Or CJ?
Yeah, that's
I think it's not even like a debate now.
It ain't even close.
It was between him, Bijan, and Bryce, and CJ's kind of ran away with it. So,
man, to watch him go down the field in that short of time, and before it happened, I told myself like, this is to see if he's really got it or whatever, But to do that
situation,
to do that, man, it showed me Yeah, we got a problem in Houston, dog.
That
Like,
Tank Dell ball on the sideline, that deep corner, bro. That's like a bucket over the money. There's like one spot you can put that ball. He put it flawlessly. So
and
amazing game by CJ.
and that's the thing about it for me. What I was looking at him on tape in college, and that's why for my assessment of him, you could tell that he was very poised in the pocket. He had the ability to escape if he needed to. He showed it versus the best defense in the country in the Georgia game, in the biggest game of the year as far as I'm concerned, because that was a national championship because that was for who was going to end up winning the title. Um, he was able to show all those things, but everybody's like, oh, well, he had all the spectacular wide receiver talent, and that, you got to have that taken into account. But look, you see that on tape, being able to layer those throws over the second level of defense, being able to put the ball in the money. There's accuracy, and then there's placement to really allow your wide receivers to get yards after the catch on a high level. CJ Stroud was just off the charts as far as I was concerned. I thought he was the safest prospect from that aspect, and it's just translated immediately. And you see it in every single game that he's been able to play. He's been great, like you said, locking up that Offensive Rookie of the Year award. And look, man, that's the franchise quarterback in Houston for them to continue to build off of. And obviously, D'Amico has a nice culture over there. Them boys getting the job done.
Coach of the year
So,
conversation.
hey, man, if they
They
get
got Cincinnati. If he win the Bengals game this week, hey,
woo, he beat Cincinnati.
if they beat the Bengals, we're gonna have to have a
We gonna have a
conversation,
conversation, man, because that's gonna be something.
can I just say one more thing about them?
Yeah, absolutely.
If they sneak into the playoffs and they're a 7 seed, they're gonna be a very scary team to have to play that first round.
That's a fact.
They might not win. They might not win.
And
that may be based off of just experience and them being young and
young
things
team.
of that nature. But
Exactly.
they're gonna give you hell in that first.
They're gonna scare somebody. Now look, and this is no disrespect to what we've seen in from out of Pittsburgh, because again, I think Mike Tomlin has done an excellent job with that football team. But there are certain teams where like you got to go and play, or not go, but have them come to you, and you got to play the Cleveland Brown defense in the first round. Nobody want to deal with that bullshit, man.
Hell no, Miles Garrett, your first game. Good luck.
Nobody want to deal with that amazing defense in the first round. It's a very annoying game. Like you said, CJ Stroud making a difference with all those weapons in the first round. It's gonna be a very annoying game. You got to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round. It's gonna be like, we can deal with that. We can
Can he pick it? Let's ride.
we can deal with that. Yeah, there's certain matchups obviously that you don't want to have to deal with in the first round, because it'd just be annoying to have to try and knock those guys out, and they'd be sneaking and end up knocking you out as well. So shout out to the Texans, man. They got something cooking over there. And like you said, sneaky, really good game of the week. Them versus Cincinnati to have week 10. And look, we're want to buy, dog. We're bye week chilling. We're sitting back,
feet up, man. Relax.
Getting the view the rest of the league around, man. Don't have to worry about it too much. There was one quick question, I think it was. I'm trying to see that I wanted to make sure I hit on. Oh, so yes, this is actually a really good way to end the show. So obviously at the bye week, 2 losses on the schedule, games up, end of the season real quick before we get on out of here. How many more losses do you think, just rough estimate, you don't have to show us the exact games, do you think that this team finishes with based on what you saw the rest to start the season, I should say, up to the bye week?
The rest of the season, I got 2 max, if anything.
Yeah,
I
had a.
Go ahead,
I had us 13-4 from the beginning of the year, so I think. But you still got the Bengals and the Bills. You could potentially maybe drop one of those games. The game coming up against the Eagles could be a tough one that you might drop, and then. Man, the Chiefs are gonna be good for one stupid game where they're not supposed to lose or whatever. So maybe there's still one of those in the tank or whatever. But yeah, I think it's probably about 4.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked if it's 5.
Yeah, I think 4 is the max for sure.
Yeah, I think that as far as I'm looking at it, I think that you drop one of the Eagles or Bengals games. Obviously, because we're coming out of the bye week, I don't think it ends up being Philadelphia. I think that you could see us dropping the Bengals game. For adjustment purposes, and I completely understand it. I think we do handle the Bills. I think the rest of our schedule is relatively light as far as that's concerned. I think we can handle business. I will say the 2 games that we have not played this team yet, this team has gone through significant change, and if we played them earlier in the season, I would not be saying what I'm about to say. You have to watch out for what the Vegas Raiders can put up, because
Yeah.
clearly those guys are playing with a completely different level of belief.
Inspired football right now.
What Antonio Pierce has changed that culture just immediately. Those guys are going to be playing hard. They are going. And the defensive side of the ball has kind of been a little bit surprising what they've been able to do. It hasn't been completely horrible. We obviously know Max Crosby is a stud, but that offense side of the ball has some talent. So you're going to have to play a real game versus those guys twice. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they can bring to the table. That's not going to be a walkover. Certainly not as it would have been had Josh McDaniels had been a consistent guy that was actually running that team for the rest of the season. But yes, I appreciate you guys, everybody, for coming by. I actually, Ravens and Browns, obviously, we'll give an update on our weekly pick 'em as we come out of the bye week next week as well. You guys want to quickly say you got Ravens Browns? Is it
Right.
in
Ooh.
Baltimore?
Give me B more, man. I got the Ravens.
Yeah, I'll
It's gonna be
I'll
it's gonna
trust
be a ugly
Lamar
game, though.
at this point. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to pick against the Ravens at this current moment,
It's gonna be an
especially
ugly game,
especially in the bank, man. I get, yeah. I don't blame y'all one bit, man. But once again, appreciate everybody for coming by. Thank you, everybody, for the listeners, the comments. Love to see it. Please continue to check it out. Check it out on Twitter at Kingdom Cast. We'll be tweeting out our power rankings as well. Keep on the lookout for some clips. We'll be sending those things out. And until next time, we'll see you guys. Peace.
Hey.
Peace.